All right, good afternoon, everybody. Scott Borys, retired international referee, 39 years refereeing, 34 years at, for those young ones in the room that remember CIAU, and then it was CIS, and now it's U Sport. Volleyball Canada, I'm currently the chair of the National Referee Committee, and I can pull my phone out and pull my app up, and it'll tell you that I have 179 days and about 6 hours left to go in that role, and my term of what was 6 years that turned into 8 years will be over. I've been a referee supervisor, mentor, evaluator at every level from 14U all the way to U Sport National Championships, Canada Games, Canada Cup, you name it. I've been a referee manager for NORCECA events in Canada as well, so done a little bit of everything. And as I say at the bottom, in my spare time, I'm a professional chartered accountant, and I work for Viterra as a corporate controller. So I spend usually a little more time at volleyball at work than I do at work some weeks, but don't tell my boss. This presentation is funny going last year today. I think at the one we did in January here at Mount Royal, I think I was the first presenter. So I got all my stuff out first, and then now coming last today. So Malcolm covered some of the stuff I was going to talk about, so I'm going to apologize now. There's going to be a little bit of repeat. We'll flow through some of it quickly. And then Andre covered a little bit. Jim took a little bit, and then Ken took some at the end about prep. So you're going to see a little bit of overlap, but hopefully not a lot. So what's expected from a referee? We talk about the high performance side, but as part of our level 4 group, which, you know, as we've heard a few times already today, we had a clinic here 2 weeks ago that Debbie helped me do, and we invited coaches in to talk to our candidates about, as Ken did here, the relationship between referees and coaches from a coaching perspective. So it was great to hear some of the things that Ken talked about. Debbie took some notes, so I'm going to get those notes from Deb later and incorporate them into the last 10 years of notes that we've taken on the coach's presentation. And you see a common trend amongst all the coaches as we've identified. So here's some of the things that we've heard over the years. Calm under pressure, control of our emotions, confident, mentally alert, and positive. So Ken also added, obviously, knowledge of the rules. That's one that we all have to have as well. Reflective questions for referees. So we are all part of this mental, your not mental prep, but your match preparation, getting ready for working in matches. You know, we heard Everett, you were sitting over there earlier, right? That was you? Okay. So how do you just usually get ready to referee, or do you usually just show up? What's that match preparation that we do? And how do you get ready? We all have a referee kit. I know in Alberta at some of the schools you can change at the university. You come in your civvies, you change into your referee gear, and you go to the court. In Regina, I'm changed when I leave my place and I show up at the gym. It's a 5-minute drive either from work or from my place, so really I don't need to change once I get there. I change at home. But when do you get that kit ready? If you're working until 4 o'clock and you got to stop at home and you grab your bag, what happens when you get to the gym and you got one runner? Or no runners, or you forgot your cards. Sorry? Exactly. You're R1 for both matches. So because you're not walking, you're repping in socks. And we saw that at a national championship in Regina this year. Referee took his shoes off and put them underneath the stand when they were as R1. I went, first time I've seen that happen, and like that was interesting, but okay. How much do we practice? This one up here, to be ready. How much time do the teams spend? We heard from Ken, and again, stole some of the stuff that, you know, I wanted to talk about, but coaches at that level invest a hell of a lot of time because they're paid. Their jobs are on the line if they don't win. It was great to hear him say he doesn't expect referees to spend that much time, but he does expect us to spend some time. What does that mean? How much time is or should we be investing in a match that we're refereeing next week? How often do we review the rules and conference playing regulations? So we're into December now. First semester at university and college is basically over. You know, the expectation is you've gone through the 4 main documents multiple times from the start of the season through to now, and not just once or twice. We're always constantly reviewing our documents, our rule book, our guidelines, our FAQs, and the casebook. We're also watching video. What are we doing to help be prepared? Debbie and I did a national theory clinic in Toronto in 2009, and it was in November. So university and college had been going on since September. So essentially two plus months. One of the candidates who had already worked a bunch of matches, for whatever reason, made a comment to me about I had yet to read the rule book or the guidelines that semester. So in my head, I'm going, this is November. You've already refereed how many matches at college and university this fall. You probably haven't refereed anything at that level since February, unless you were at a national championship in March, which if you're a national candidate, you wouldn't have been refereeing at U Sport Nationals or CIS Nationals or College Nationals, because we only take national referees for those or higher. So you've gone 7 or 8 months without reading the rule book and doing a whole bunch of matches. How are the coaches going to react when they hear that we're not prepared coming into working their matches, given what is on the line? Are you usually focused in at the start of the game and throughout? We all know what the 18x9 is, but as a referee, and particularly R1, there's more to the game than just the 18x9 court. There's the free zone around it. There's the players' benches. There's the score table. There's everything else that we have to control. And as you get better as a referee, you're going to start to see more than that 18x9. I've said, I think at our theory clinic, I remember the match where I was told by Dennis Pomeroy and Mark Tennant, you're finally seeing more than the 18x9. It's at a U of S match. Never thought about it before that, but yeah, I saw the warm-up zone. I saw the player with the foot on the chair in the warm-up zone as R1 and took care of it. I saw the football team beacon at the opposition, took care of it, and they went, you're now seeing everything. It took a long time. I'd been refereeing for 20 years at that point. Do you have a constant routine leading up to each match? When does that routine start? You know, Everett said part of his routine is when he gets in the car after work on the way to the gym. What else do we do? We know our assignments. I know in Alberta you use, it's Arbiter. So you know well in advance your assignments. In Saskatchewan, we don't use that system. We use what Manitoba is using, and we'll get our assignments from Lori the week before. So you have 1 week to prepare for your match. So we have matches coming up first weekend in January, so I may or may not get an assignment. But as soon as I get my assignment, is that when my prep starts, or do I wait till the day before my assignment? And then, are there things which tend to upset your routine and your concentration? Arriving late to the venue, bad day at work. Ken said he knows when referees are coming in late. We've heard that from other coaches as well, that they know we're supposed to be there minimum 45 minutes before a match. And when you're strolling in at 20 minutes before a match as R1, is that a good thing? Is that optically what we want to be presenting to the coaches when we're there to service their match? So referee performance can be affected by planning, preparation, lack thereof, relaxation, breathing control. Like Andre touched on visualization. Your long-term aspirational goals. As Ken said, do you want to be a national and do university matches, or are you happy doing U16? Everybody's different. Is this an opportunity, a short-term opportunity, or a performance goal? It's one of those evaluations that you need to get to move from level 2 to level 3, or level 3 to be considered a national candidate. Controlling your emotions. Visibly turn red. We had a referee in Saskatchewan back in the 80s and the 90s at university would turn beet red if he made a bad call, and the teams knew it. They had him, and they would keep feeding on him and keep bothering him and hassling him, and he would just get redder and redder. So it's how you control those emotions. And the last one that we've always heard about, am I being evaluated today? That impacts our performance on a match, or can have an impact. But we're always being evaluated, aren't we? We did, you heard from Malcolm this morning in his session, a long time ago already at this point, but him and Don Middleton worked a match the weekend of the theory clinic. They didn't know that all of a sudden there was going to be 6 candidates, and Debbie and Jim and myself showing up to evaluate their performance on that match. Walked in the gym. I think I was the first one to get in, and Malcolm saw me, and he went, "Oh God." He knew what was going to be happening because, I've been in Calgary, I don't know, a dozen times in the last year, but he knew what was going on, and we were there, and we were going to evaluate him. So he's an international referee. I'm an international referee. I get stressed every time I go to do a match. I'm nervous every time I'm on a university match for the first 3-4 points. I've done 1,000+ university matches since 1985, but every time I go into the gym, I'm still nervous. Until I get going, I go, oh yeah, that's right. The signals are going the right way, and I know what I'm doing. I remember what I'm doing. What are some of the impacts that can happen on our performance? Errors by players and referee corps. 7 missed serves in a row. R1. We're saying in our head, please, somebody, for God's sake, make a serve. Right? It's going to happen. It has happened. You have a bad call by R2 or one of your referee assistants. How does that impact you? Do you throw them under the bus? Do you overrule them? Do you call them in and say, what was that? How are we going to fix that? And move on. Those can have an impact on your performance. Poor play of the teams. A major incident. You have an injury, a power outage. Do you know what to do? If it's less than 4 hours on the same court, if it's greater than 4 hours not on the same court, do you know what to do if that happens? Thinking ahead too much. You're reffing at 9 o'clock. Well, no, I'm going to ref now at 11 o'clock, and that's 2 really good teams. Don't worry about the 11 o'clock match. You got a 9 o'clock match you should be focusing on. The teams that are there deserve your attention on that match. Anxiety, nerves. You got the top teams in the conference or in the country playing. Canada West, we are so fortunate, and Ken said it. The 2-12 team can beat the 14-0 team in Canada West. Not going to happen in Ontario, not going to happen in Quebec. But in Canada West, anything can happen on any given night. So it doesn't matter what the rankings are, what the seedings are. They can be competitive on any given night. So just because I'm from Regina, and Regina's not doing very well this year, doesn't mean that it's going to be a 3-0 match. They've taken teams to 5 this year. I plan to go 5 every time I do a match. Doesn't matter who's playing. The unexpected. If we're well prepared, should there really be anything that is unexpected at the end of the day? If you know the rules inside and out, there really shouldn't be anything that catches you off guard. Fatigue. You work all day, then you have to referee 2 best-of-5s back-to-back. For those referees in Alberta that get assigned and work 2 back-to-back best-of-5s, I don't know how you do it. I can't do that anymore. I used to do that back in the 80s and the 90s when I was a lot younger, but now I can't do that. I tell Lori, one match, that's all I can do, and in Regina that's all we have because we don't have a men's program anymore. But if I have to go up to Saskatoon, I'm reffing 1 match because I don't feel I'm going to have my best for the second match of the night. I went up last year and did 2 matches back-to-back on a Friday afternoon, but I said I'll be R2 only because I don't want to have to concentrate on ball handling and potentially have an impact on the match because I'm tired after the first match going 5 and the second match going 5. The crowd, loud and vocal. If you're refereeing in front of 50 people, maybe not so bad. You're refereeing in front of 2,000 people and it's loud, it can have an impact on your performance. And the last one, the captain's always asking about ball handling. Eventually that's going to get to you, and how are you going to deal with it? So I threw this slide in, just to outline between the teams and the coaches and the referees. So practice time. Approximately 5 days in the gym every week leading up to weekend matches for the teams. Referees, how often do we practice? And by practice I mean at a court. Probably not very often, right? Our practice is actually doing matches. So it really isn't practice, it's live. Video review. We heard from Ken earlier, multiple times per week by the coaching staff and or with the team. For referees, it depends on what access you have to webcasts. Live on demand. I know ACAC, you can watch just about anything, right, Jim? Canada West, I think you need to buy a subscription or borrow one from a neighboring province that happens to have one, and you can watch anything you want. You know, those are, we used to call those that, you know, doing the remote R4. Years ago, I used to have 3 or 4 matches going on my computers at home. And, you know, I would send texts or emails to referees saying, good job on this match, or, you know, that was an interesting play, or things like that. We have that ability to see a lot of volleyball. But do we take advantage of it? Game day, arrival at the venue. Ken said it. He gets to a Saturday night match. He's there Saturday morning and doesn't leave till the end of the day. The players usually come in a few hours before. The coaches are there a lot before that. Referees, generally R1, R2 an hour. Referee assistants, we hope 30 minutes. Is that what you guys in Alberta do, 30 minutes? So again, we hope 30 minutes. Scott gets very excited when referee assistants aren't in the gym at 30 minutes. And I'm pulling my phone out going, okay, who's assigned to this match? Okay, John Damon, yeah, I know. John will be here at 27 minutes. He's always here at 27 minutes. We can tell him it's 30 till we're blue in the face, but he'll be here. Okay, I'm not so worried. Ooh, Travis is here. I've never had Travis lines before. When's he going to show up? Oh, God, now what's going to happen? Do we have a backup somewhere? So that starts to get me excited. Post-match, discussion and video. The teams are always meeting right after the match. Sometimes they do it on the court. Sometimes they go back into their locker room and have a chat. And then they're getting into video and scouting for the next, scouting from that match for things to work on the next night. Referees. We have a short discussion with the referee crew if we're lucky. We've been talking about this for years and years, about asking, please do those post-match debriefs. Include the referee assistants. Everybody benefits from doing that. Any of you that have worked at college nationals or youth sport nationals in the last, I'll say 8 years, 7 years, we've included the referee assistants in those post-match debriefs. It's not just the 2 supervisors or mentors or coaches or whatever you want to call us, and R1, R2, and R3 if there's a reserve. We invite the referee assistants that work the match. We also invite the referee assistants that are assigned to the tournament. So in Red Deer in March, when they hosted college nationals, we had a room and everybody was allowed to come in and listen to the debrief, because we're not yelling and screaming at referees about what they did wrong. We're talking about things that happened in the match and how we can all learn from them to get better as referees and things for them to work on. So, match preparation for referees. You receive an assignment to be R2 in a women's match, Calgary versus Mount Royal, next Friday. What does that mean to you as a referee preparation-wise? Who are you working with? Does it matter, yes or no? Yeah, it matters. Because if you're working with somebody that's going to be their first match as R1, and you're a veteran official as R2, you may have to help out a little bit more with R1 with the more discrete signals on ball handling and things like that, or take more control in a match. What matches have you done recently? Have you done 1 or 2 youth sport matches, or have you only done 10 high school matches? You got to prepare a little differently for a university and college match than you do a high school match. Have you been R2 yet this year? Right? How many of you work in the fall as only an R1? Do you use R2s all the time? Right. So if you're only working as an R1 and then you get assigned as an R2, do you remember your footwork? Do you remember the little tango around the pole and the back and forth movement and what you are supposed to look for? We know the referees that don't work a lot as R2 because the first few calls in a match, they're calling stuff that they would have called as R1, working alone, and not allowing R1 to make the call, or vice versa. What does my R1 look for in their R2 as for help or no help in net faults? Malcolm touched on that a little bit. You know, am I signaling here in front of my chest where it's very discreet, 2 hits, lift, or I'm on the side, 2 hits, lift, and just in front of my leg? We're not doing this. You're going to sink the ship if you do that with your help, because everybody's going to see you think it's 4 hits, and they're going to, coach is going to be go, hey, 4 hits here. We got to be discreet about it. But where does R1 want to look? It doesn't matter where you as R2 want to signal it, is where does R1 want to see it? Where are they comfortable looking as their first glance over at you to see if you've got something to help them with? Net faults. Some R1s want R2 to call the entire net, attacking and blocking. You may only be used to calling the blocking side. But if your R1 says, Stephanie, you are taking the entire net, if you don't call it and I see it, I might call it, but the net's yours. You have to now prepare differently for having the entire net. The team playing considerations. Did they do anything different on their reception formation? Do they have a weird stack that you haven't seen yet this year, but you've heard about it? Go watch some video. See where the back row player is, where the setter is, where the attackers are coming out of, where the back row attacks may be. How good is the setter? Ken talked about our biggest thing is the ball handling level. From PEI in Newfoundland all the way to Vancouver Island. Everybody calls it differently. But when you're in a match, you set the level. The first whistle sets the level. And as long as you stay at that level, things should be fine. But coaches and players don't like the roller coaster. You call it tight, you call it loose. You call it tight, you call it loose, because then they don't have any idea what's going to be called for ball handling. University of Manitoba women's coach Ken Bentley. I've heard him say 100 times to referees, you have set the level. Ken's the coach that Ken referred to about he doesn't want anything called. So when you're doing a match with U of M women, Ken wants you to let them play. But once you make that ball handling call, as long as you've now set the level, you stay at that level, Ken's not going to say boo to you as a referee. As soon as you start deviating from that level, as Ken Briggs said, you're going to get heat from the coaches. They don't care what the level is. But you do have the coaches that do care what the level is. And in Regina, we have the pleasure of having Melanie Sanford, who wants it called up here, because she expects the skill level to be high at university and expects the calls on her team as well to be high. Because I had her come to me one weekend. I was watching the Friday night and I was reffing the Saturday night. She came and she goes, I really hope you're going to call my team on ball handling tonight if it's bad. She goes, we're not learning from it if it's not getting called. I said, I'm going to call. If it's bad enough on the level I set, I will blow the whistle. Some referees don't want to do that. We got to set a level and call the game. Is the coach always late coming with timeout requests? As we talked about Jim in the when we were in the gym, when Jim talked about being in the gym today, Mount Royal's score table quite long, so the coach isn't as close to you as normal in some venues. If they're further down and they want a timeout, we don't really need to give it to them if they're in the warm-up area. They're supposed to be near the 3-meter line or the first chair on the bench. The first chair on the bench might be the 6-meter line. That's where they are and they ask for a timeout. We have to give it to them. Or are they always coming up late just as the first referee is about to have that signal for serve? You got to be aware of that. And then the relationship with coaches, as we've heard today, the good rapport, is it adversarial? You walk in the gym, they walk in the gym, and you both go, oh, not them again. Right? How's that going to impact your performance, your match prep? Who are your referee assistants? Are you going with 2 or are you going with 4? Does the scorer know what they're doing? Is it their first time doing the new e-score sheet? Potentially issues there. Do you have strong or weak assistants? If you're going with 2 and you have 2 really strong referee assistants, not so bad. If you're going with 4 and they're all weak, good luck. You're going to have to concentrate on a few more things now, potentially. Arrive at the venue. When do you do that? Travel time concerns. So for me in Regina, as I said, 6 to 8 minutes max from my house or my work to the U of R. Doesn't matter the time of year. In Calgary, I'm guessing 20 to 60. Yeah. And that's if traffic is flowing good and there's no accident. And I hear a lot about accidents on the Deerfoot or some of the other major roads in Calgary. So what happens? Now what do? You get stuck in traffic. 6 o'clock match and it's now 5:14 and you're a long ways from the venue yet. What are you going to do? Get on your phone. Phone somebody if you can and say, I'm trying to get there. Our least favorite one, am I being evaluated and by who? We heard from Ken, we heard from Natalie at the theory clinic a couple weekends ago that when referees are being evaluated, it changes their way they referee a match. It shouldn't change the way you referee a match. We've said for I don't know how many years that you referee for the teams, you do not referee for your mentors, your evaluators, your referee coaches, your referee delegate, your referee supervisor, whatever you want to call us. You referee for the teams on the court. So in the older days when the player had one foot on the warm-up line and their toe was sticking out, we would go tweet, back up. Is it really making a difference to anything? Do we really need to be distracted by that and focus there rather than on the court? Coaches seem to think that when there's an evaluator in the gym, those little things that never get looked at otherwise are now being the focus, and it drives them nuts. Deb. Yep. Yeah, absolutely, and that's where we need to make sure that communication is out there, and we say it at a lot of our clinics. One sec, that you are there to referee for the teams, the participants, not for us. We may write stuff down, we may have a comment about something, but we will always have comments about something. You referee for the teams and the participants, not your coaches. Well, I'll get to that one. We'll come back to. Somebody remind me after to talk about Ken's comment about the warm-up periods, because it's a little interesting with what Canada West on the men's side is wanting, and a little bit on from what I heard from the women's side. So I'll come back to that one. So yeah, I don't work every Regina match, but I'm usually there every night, and I'm watching. I'm trying to provide feedback. I went out to Briarcrest one weekend and worked with referees there, but it's not that we're always evaluating. Evaluating is when you're being promoted to another level and you need that form as part of the process, and that form determines whether you pass or fail that evaluation. We're doing mentoring, and that was the whole reason why we changed our Volleyball Canada structure a few years ago for our referee management team, our referee development team, from supervisors and evaluators to supervisors and mentors. Because even at national championships, coaches were getting excited because at 16, 17, 18U, we had evaluators on all the courts, and the referees were refereeing differently. Well, no, we're not evaluating, we're mentoring. And there's a distinction between the two. As the mentor, we're there to help you get better. We're going to give you some feedback on what we saw or what you called, or give you some ideas on maybe how you could have handled something a little differently. We're not writing up an R4 form and saying, yes, you pass or yes, you fail. We're helping you to get better. Hopefully, anyway. So, do you have the same routine for every match prior to arrival at the venue and once at the venue? So, this is my routine. So, I got a 6 o'clock match at U of R. It's now the only match of the night, not just the first match of the night. So, it's because no men's program, it is only one match. So, for me, I arrive at 16:45, so 4:45. 1 hour, 15 minutes before. That's when I get to the gym. I have my shoes on, my referee gear, and by 5 to 5, I'm ready to go. My badge is on, my whistle's on, my card's in my pocket, I got a coin, I got an extra whistle. Whatever else I need to have is ready to go. I check the competition area. I check the court surrounds, the lights. In Regina, we got windows off on the north side that the screens have to be down, or Melanie will lose her mind when she comes in the gym. So if they aren't down, I make sure I find a facility person and get the screens down so the coaches don't worry about anything when they get in there. PA system, score clock, flip cards. All that stuff needs to be there. Check the height of the net. We talk about Ken said it again. We're checking the height of the net when they're trying to warm up. Yeah, we have to technically do that, but I check the net well before anybody else is usually in the gym, whether I'm R2 or R1. I'm in there checking the height of the net, making sure that once the teams get on the court, I'm not in their way. The court's good to go. They can start warming up. Referee stand, all those things. The game equipment, 5 game balls. Do we have 5 good game balls? Or are we pulling balls out of the warm-up card again to find 5 good ones and then initial them because that's what we're going to use for this match? Do we have lines judge flags? Sub paddles no longer required. Lineup cards, score sheets, pens. So by 45 minutes to the match, everything that's in my control is ready to go. And after that, it's just observing the teams on the court. They enter the court. Now at 30 minutes, I hope the referee assistants show up, and I don't have to worry about them either. So that's what works for me, to make sure that I'm comfortable inside and out for the match that I'm going to work. So pre-match checklist. Travel times. Is it always 5 minutes? For me, it is in Regina. I got multiple ways to get there. Unless we were to have 14 accidents that shut down the roads, I have a way of getting to U of R in 5 or 6 minutes all the time. Food and hydration, we talked about it. You work until 4 o'clock, you get to the venue for 5. When are you eating and drinking? How are you staying satisfied food-wise, nutrition-wise, drink-wise? Because if you're working back-to-back matches and both go 5, you get 25 minutes or so between match 1 and match 2 where you have responsibilities courtside. You can't run over to the food court and grab a burger, generally, right? You don't have time to do it. So the second match may not start till 9 o'clock if it goes 5 and a long 5 on the first one. So you've been at the venue for 4 hours already. Unless you ate en route or ate before, it's now been 5 or 6 hours since you ate or drank. How is that going to impact your performance on a match? Equipment. You forgot your whistle, your sanction cards. Now what? I guess you're going to be a referee assistant. And you're going to take one of the line judges and put them up on the match and hope for the best. Kidding, you'll probably borrow cards. Refereeing strategies. Do you watch webcasts of previous matches? We talked about that. It's available for everybody to use now. If you aren't using it, you should be using it. Relaxation and mental rehearsal. Practice your signals, practice your whistle. Go in front of that mirror. And we all know it sounds hokey at times, but stand in front of the mirror. Practice those signals, especially at the beginning of the year. Are they correct? Are they supposed to be where they are? If they're not, fix them. Get them as close to the rule book as possible. Your whistle. In some of the venues we work in, you can blow your whistle softly and everybody hears it. In other venues like Mount Royal, when they have it's a big venue, you got to blast your whistle. There's a few times that match we were watching where I was questioning what whistle had been blown because I didn't always hear the referee's whistle, and we were sitting, behind the score table. So you have to ensure you know. So when the season starts for me, I go in my basement and I blast my whistle. Pees my family off, but they know it's going to happen at the start of the season every year. Go downstairs and blow the whistle as loud as possible. Get practicing. Pre-match overview with R2 and the line judge. Very important. Have that chat with your R2. And Jim talked about it earlier. If he's working with, I think it was Everett, it's going to be okay. What's the conversation? Doesn't matter who you're working with. Make sure you have that pre-match chat. R1, R2. What do you want today? It may change, it may not change, right? Line judges. Whether you take a line judge flag or not with you as R1 when you're going to talk to your line judges before a match, that's up to you. I know Ken made a comment about, should we have to do that at this level? Yeah, sometimes we do. You have new people and you want to show them what you're expecting as a signal and how the signal should look. Have that chat. Remind them of the importance of their role. We've heard it countless times, and we heard it again today from Ken. Line judges are the most important people in our crew. Guy Bradbury, we've heard that name before, is adamant that line judges are crucial to the match, and they can sink you at 14-13 in the 5th set by making a call or missing a call. Talk to them. Make sure you know they understand what is expected on signals. In some provinces, we do the ball coming towards the line judges. That's the primary responsibility for touch calls, unless it's your line. Some provinces say backside signal as well. You as R1 have to instruct your line judges what you want to have happen. If you're working with 2 line judges, maybe both line judges signal touch if they see a touch. If you're working with 4, maybe it is only the side that the ball is going towards is the initial signal for touch, and the instructions are backside. When I turn and look at you, because nobody on the front side made a call, when I turn and look at you, you saw a touch, boom, now you signal it because I've looked at you as R1. Again, it's whatever the R1 wants in that scenario. That's what the line judges should do. And even though the backside, you may have seen a touch, if R1 doesn't look at you, that flag stays beside you. You do not raise that flag for a touch call. Introductions to coaches and captains. Never alone. So we've heard that a few times today as well. So that little pre-match chat with the coach, R1 and R2 go over. Pet peeve of mine. I've said it for years. I hate it when I see R1 walk over and go, "Hey coach, how you doing?" And then go to the other side and R2 standing around going, "What just happened?" I wasn't included. Go as a team. Have that little quick chat. And again, it's not a long chat, because if you know the coach, like I said, I've known Ken Bentley. We've been at university level, him coaching me, refereeing for the same amount of time. We get to the gym early. We'll have our little, hug, handshake, whatever it is. Have our little shoot the breeze before everybody's in the gym. Once we're in the gym, we go over and we have our introductions, ask any questions, and move on. Professional. Same amount of time for each coach, because trust me, they notice when you spend 1 minute with that coach and 6 minutes with this coach. That's why. If there happens to be a question that takes a little longer, that's fine, but we can't be in that habit of spending a lot more time with one than the other. Dynamic warm-up. Watch the setter's hands when they're doing their 5-and-5 warm-up. Pay attention to where everybody is on the court. As R2, even though I've refereed in Regina at the gym for a few decades, I still go when the teams are hitting, and I find my position on the floor with the padding on the pole so I can see the center line all the way to the sideline, all the attack lines, and I just make sure that I'm in the right position, and I practice the moving back and forth to make sure I'm still comfortable, even though I've ref how many 100 matches there. Get in that habit. See the match on the court. What can happen? So benefits of visualization. Your skills are more consistent. We don't get to practice a lot unless you go out and go to a team's practice and go on the stand. We honestly don't get to practice a lot. It's all live. Live competition matters to some team, what the outcome of that match is. Do we need to watch our signals? If we practice our signals, do we really need to go, okay, yep, that's good. No, thumb a little lower. Out. Oh, no, that looks pretty good. You practice it enough, it should become habit. So when I'm signaling, I'm going like this. I'm looking out on the court. I'm not looking at where my hand goes, because I'm looking to make sure there's no BS going on near the net in front of me, because I'm looking at my signals. I'm going to miss it. I'm paying attention to what's happening here. So you got to get in the habit of doing that. Minimize the impact of the unexpected. Back row setter jumps at the net to play a tight ball. What can happen? What can happen? Anybody? Back row attack. 2 hits. Back row block. Penetration. Setter. Penetration. Blocker. No call. You got to have all of that ready in your mind, and you can't sit there like a deer in the headlights go, okay, was the setter back row? No, it was front row, but did the ball touch the blocker before it touched the, those are the things that if you're practiced and you're prepared, you will be able to make that call instantly. So, match prep. Everybody should have one. It'll enhance your concentration skills. I said I pretend I'm going 5. When I get to the gym, I don't care who's playing. I'm always going 5. And the last couple of years, I've gone 4 or 5 almost all the time. I think I've had one match in the last 2 years go 3 sets. It'll enhance your capacity to communicate both within the referee team and with the players and the coaches. Key here is know what to say and how to say it. It's not just the words, but your tone. When you're talking to a captain, you're talking to a coach. No different than if you have kids and how you talk to your kids at home. You can say something that is really constructive feedback with a very nice tone, or you can say it with a very harsh tone to get a different message across. Next part, self-evaluation, self-assessment. So what does self-evaluation mean? Who does it and how often do referees actually do it? So it's all throughout our career as referees, all throughout the season, all throughout the weekend at a tournament, throughout a match on occasion as well. How do we benefit from self-evaluation? In order to improve as a referee and learn from our mistakes, we need to be able to provide an honest assessment of our performance. So how many of you mentor other referees? Almost all the hands, right? So you shouldn't be harder on yourself than you're going to be on other referees that you mentor. But we all do it. We're all guilty of being harder on ourselves in that self-assessment, self-evaluation than we would be on another referee. That's just the way things are. Do we believe we don't make mistakes but only the teams do as a referee? Hopefully not. We all make mistakes as referees. I've made hundreds of mistakes as a referee. I didn't make a ball handling call when Calgary was in Regina 3 weekends ago that I wasn't expecting it. It was a mistake, missed call. Post-match debriefs we talked about must happen. If you don't do it already, get in the habit, start doing it. If your R2 and R1 goes, okay, good match, got to go. Whoa. Can we talk about the match? Talk about the match. Spend a few minutes. What was good? What was bad? What could we have done differently? It doesn't have to be half an hour. It can be 5 minutes. It can be 10 minutes. Talk about what happened in the match. And the last point there, it doesn't matter who you are or what level you are. It doesn't matter that you've refereed for 40 years or 5 years or 2 years. You should be doing these post-match debriefs and getting comment. Malcolm said it this morning. He learned something out of our theory clinic on a comment from one of the candidates about something he was doing as an R2. And he's refereed thousands of matches. But in year whatever, 38 or 40 or whatever it is for him, he learned something new again. So we always want feedback. So as a referee supervisor for U Sport, CCAA, BC, Nationals, Promotions Committee, all that, when we do that post-match debrief with the referees, one of the first things we do is we ask, how'd the match go? It's not us talking to you initially about, you did this good, you did this not so good, you did this good, positive, negative, positive. We want you to give us your self-evaluation on how you thought the match went. We want to see what you saw from your performance on the match. Debbie and I, Jason, Andre, Jim, we're always going to have comments of some form to provide to you for feedback, but we want to see what you remember and you saw in your performance. We're giving you that opportunity. All too often we hear everything was good, no issues. Well, was it? Usually that doesn't match our comments because we always have comments, and they're not always negative comments. They're constructive comments to help you get better. So here are a few things that very few matches where there were no issues. So was your pre-match protocol correct and warm-up done correct? Captains at the right time. The clock started at the right time. At the 20-minute mark for U Sport when the official warm-up starts, were there the right amount of players warming up on the court? The UFC men's match when we were here for the theory clinic weekend, UFC men had too many players warming up during the official 20-minute warm-up. Wasn't noticed. Okay? A few of us noticed it, sitting on the other side. Was every signal correct and per the rule book? Unfortunately, we have a lot of referees that as they age or go up the ranks, their signals sometimes don't mirror what the rule book is supposed to have. And when we're working in front of other referees, sometimes the younger referees don't get the right view as to what a signal's supposed to look like. How many of you were